Today on America's Court with Judge Ross.
Here's what we have. We have a situation where we have a lack of communication with a 6-page contract. Yeah, right?
I understand.
That's funny. In my courtroom, it's about equity and fairness. You want him to pay $628.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knock my socks off. Justice should be more than just some foreign concept. I actually want you to learn something. The law talks about something may in fact be true, but can they prove it? And that's what's tough.
Fair, firm, compassionate. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Jonathan Larkin claims he was fined repeatedly for waste left behind by his dogs on walks with their dog walker. Mr. Larkin is suing George Sales in the amount of $600. Mr. Sales claims that he's paid to walk the dogs, not clean up after them.
All rise. Remain standing and come to order. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kevin Ross presiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
All parties been sworn, Your Honor.
Third, good Deputy Thomas. All right, so we're talking about dog poop.
Yes, Your Honor.
What happened? The poop wasn't cleaned up, and now you're suing for it.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm suing George Sales for $600 for 2 separate citations I received for dog waste that my dogs apparently had left on the sidewalk.
And who did you receive the citations from, sir?
I live in a gated community.
All right, so like the HOA or the...
Yeah, the HOA, whoever
Okay.
runs the show.
All right. And you have how many dogs?
I have 2 beautiful border collies,
Okay.
Sasha and Ollie. They're
Sasha and Ollie. Let me
beautiful,
take a look.
beautiful. Yes, and I hired George to walk my dogs for me.
Are the dogs hugging each other?
They're hugging each other.
Oh, you're killing me, Larry. And their names are Sasha and Ollie.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Which one's the black one?
The black one is Sasha.
You've had these dogs, and you're living in this
I live in
particular
an apartment.
location.
I divorced my wife. My wife got the dog. I moved into this gated community that allows dogs, knowing that I would get 2 dogs to keep me, happy and not alone. So I was home
Interesting.
for.
You got a divorce from your wife, and you didn't want to be alone, and she got the family
She got
dog.
the family dog. She needed it more. Well, she got the family dog. Let's put it that way. So I wanted to have dogs. I didn't want my one dog to be alone, so I got 2. So I hired George. I interviewed several companies. I hired George. Main reason being that my dogs took an instant liking to him.
And, sir, Mr. Sales, you actually do this professionally.
Right, this is my business.
How long have you been doing it, sir?
I've been doing it since I was 15, so about 8 years now.
And then you turned it into a business.
Right.
And what do you provide specifically in terms of service?
I've done a lot of research into dog health and dog care, so I know how to do this job as a professional rather than as I was before as a teenager.
Right. And the issue, though, is that we're dealing with, nobody's cleaning up the waste when the dogs are being walked.
Right.
And you have this expertise. You don't understand the concept of picking up poop?
Oh, of course I do. For most of my clients, I do pick up the poop.
Just him.
Waste.
You don't pick up after Sasha and Ollie.
I'm a private contractor. So
Okay.
at the beginning, I go through a contract and we
You have
fill
proof
it
of the
out and sign
contract?
it.
Does anyone have a contract
Yes,
here?
I have it right here.
I'd like to see that, please. And Mr. Larkin, you're not disputing that you signed a contract with Mr.
No, Your
Sales?
Honor. I was very impressed with this contract, as a matter of fact. It's just the verbiage.
I mean, just to walk a dog is
Yeah.
one.
Now, if you look on the last
2,
page, you'll see that he
3,
did.
4, 5, 6 pages of contract.
As a private contractor, I have to be careful so that I don't get sued.
So much for that, huh?
That's working well.
No, but I'm looking, and it is very thorough. You go through the names of the dogs. You ask for the veterinary information, any major medical conditions, medications. If we have all these terms and conditions, is there a term on here that talks about dog poop?
So the last page, though, if you will look, which there are some boxes checked. So
Are we talking about the last page and the last item on
the
that
last
page?
3? Yes.
It says service requested.
Correct.
Daily walks, Monday through Friday, day of the week, Monday through Friday. You have that checked.
Correct.
Right.
There's no disagreement about that.
No.
No, Your Honor.
The next box says daily potty breaks, Monday through Friday, including pet waste removal. And then you have other service.
Correct.
What is it that I'm missing?
This is where, in my opinion, we get into the problem, is because there is a box there that says potty breaks.
Right.
To me, in my mind, a potty break is if George came to the home, opened the door, let my dogs out in the backyard, they did a quick whip-de-doo, did their business, came back in.
Woo!
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, they're very happy. Everything is done in joy and bliss. That would be a potty break. To
Right.
me, when you walk a dog, you're walking the dog. Whatever happens while you're on the walk is the responsibility of the dog walker. Oftentimes, the dog will leave its little treats behind. Plenty of every corner.
I love the way you're phrasing all of this.
Well, we're in court,
but it's
Your Honor.
very
I would
colorful.
use a different.
And you know what? What you're saying makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You're not interpreting it that way.
There are certain exceptions. In this neighborhood, there are no like doggy bags, so I
Right.
have to bring my own. So that's part of it. But the most important part is in certain neighborhoods, they'll hire companies. The neighborhood as a whole will hire a company to come through and
You ought to
clean
have a
up.
conversation about whether or not that neighborhood hires people, or what are we doing in
When
terms
I'm not requested to pick up the waste, I assume that there is a company or some kind of reason for that.
When people use that word assume, it's such a fascinating word, because you don't assume, which is why you've got 6 pages. Now, if it was just a one-page thing and you hand wrote it out, then I'd say, okay. But you have really gone through this, and I'm paying you a compliment. It just seems like something as critical as when the dog is walked, who is responsible for the waste, would be specific.
Coming up on America's Court.
Here's what we have. We have a situation where we have a lack of communication with a 6-page contract. Yeah, right?
I understand.
That's funny.
And later,
This is something that she has created, and you are taking what she has created and taking them to market and then underbidding her.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Jonathan Larkin, who is suing George Sales for $600.
How did we get to a point where you were actually fined? Because clearly the dog was out.
So in
How
my
did they know that it was your dog? Was someone watching them? Or?
In my community, they DNA test every dog. If you're a dog owner, they test your dog for DNA. Then they will find the lowly waste pile sitting all alone unattended, and they will test that waste.
Well, wait, how did they get your dog's DNA?
They swab my Ollie and Sasha's mouth and get a DNA sample.
Well, you were present when that happened, right?
Yes.
You knew the purpose for that?
Yes.
Swabbing?
Yes, sir. Yes,
They
sir.
told you in the lease.
Yes.
We're swabbing the dogs because we want to make sure that they're picked up after.
Every dog owner is responsible to their own dog and their own dog's mess.
Did you ever communicate that to Mr. Sales? These dogs are swabbed, and if their waste is left out, I can be fined. Did you ever have that conversation with him?
I honestly do not recall. I thought I had, Your Honor, but I don't want to assume after hearing that.
Because if you didn't have that conversation with him, how would he know that?
Here we go back to the assume. Any dog walker, to me, would pick up after the dog. If you look on the second box, it says potty break in parentheses and waste cleanup. Well, I wouldn't expect him to clean up my dog's waste from the yard.
Wait a minute.
I would have
Do
hoped.
some people expect you to clean up the dog waste in their own yard?
Yes, if you look on the second box says potty breaks. So if they tell me outside or when I'm walking.
Does everyone have their dog walked that use your services?
Mostly. Some people I just come and let their dogs out.
Because if they're at work and they're like, the dog needs to get out,
Yeah.
you have a key. Your job is to come, let the dog get some air, exercise. That you pick up after the waste, you bring them back in, you lock the door, you leave.
Right. I'm paid by $20 an hour, so it just depends. If I charge the same rate, it's not like I charge a certain fee for walking.
You would have charged him extra if he said, pick up after the waste.
I charge $2 extra just to pay for the bags.
Okay.
And that's per week.
I get it. And then I take it that they found some dog poop and they did a DNA test and it came back to your dogs?
They DNA tested. So, yeah, I've been through it. My dogs are happy. Everyone's happy. George has been doing a great job. Then I get these tickets in the mail. I'm thinking, well, what the heck is this? And I look and I'm thinking, oh, I forgot they DNA tested my dog. Apparently my dog's waste was left on the sidewalk. I know I never do that. I'm very responsible. I have bags stuck to my leash.
Because sometimes you do actually take the dogs out
Oh, yeah,
yourself.
the dogs are with me all the weekend. And
Okay.
only if I'm not home. I spend as much time with them as possible.
Okay.
But George has been a great
And
asset.
you don't want to pay because you feel as though that should be monies that...
Come on. Yes, I do feel that is... I wouldn't have... $2 extra? Sure, here's $2 extra for I had hoped that you would pick up after the dog when you walked.
There's that word again.
Hoped, yeah. So, like I said, I don't dispute his contract. I'm very impressed with George. He's loving with the dogs, everything like that. It's just, I was kind of trying to help him learn a little bit of a lesson, reword your contract.
Here's what we have. We have a situation where we have a lack of communication with a 6-page contract. Right?
I understand.
That's funny. That here we are trying to figure out from 6 pages and all we're talking about is walking a dog. In your mind, you're thinking it's one way. In your mind, you're thinking it's the other way. Who bears the burden of making sure that the contract is clear?
I do.
Boom goes the dynamite. Because you wrote it.
Right.
Based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel must come down in favor of the plaintiffs. And I know you all are from Arizona, and I believe you're from Tempe. And
Right.
I was reading about how that's all the rage in Tempe and other states where they're swabbing the dogs and they're because people are like, we are sick of cleaning up. And it's toxic and it's smelly and it's, unseemly. And so people want to do something about it. And more cities are going to be doing this, which is even more reason, 23-year-old, who I'm very impressed with, you want to make sure that's clear. All right? You will have to pay that $600. It's a tough lesson, but you'll be fine. That is the order. Case closed.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $600.
My heart goes out to George, but had his contract been clearer, I would have been happy to pay the extra $2.
In the future, I'm going to make sure that my contracts are much more clear. I'm not going to assume that my customers understand it. I'm going to make sure they do.
And coming up on America's Court with Judge Ross.
This is something that she has created, and you are taking what she has created and taking them to market and then underbidding her.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Sonia Dills claims she lost wages when the defendant grew and sold her patented peppers. Ms. Dills is suing homemaker Lily Stein in the amount of $4,200. Ms. Stein claims the plaintiff's vine creeped over onto her soil, and once the peppers started growing, she cultivated, harvested, and sold them at the market.
We're suing over your peppers.
Yes, you're right.
Those must be some really good peppers.
It's amazing. You have to taste it sometime.
And you actually created the seed
Yes,
for these peppers.
yes, from 7 different other seeds.
And
It's called pearl peppers. It's purple in color and it looks very beautiful. I
I'll
can
take
show
a look.
it to you.
And Ms. Stein, Ms. Dills is saying that you have somehow gotten a hold of these peppers and now you're benefiting from them.
No, that's not true. No.
I love the purple color. And are all of these the same type of pepper, or
It's slightly different. The purple is slightly distinctive, and you can't find it in any grocery store anywhere.
and you, from what I recall, spent some time actually exhausting this process where you had a patent specifically
Yes.
on these peppers.
Yes, the first thing when me and my husband we moved here, we got it
And you are
patent.
from India.
Yes.
Okay. You and your husband moved here, yes.
A couple of years ago, and we got this patent. And about 6 months, we moved in the same neighborhood as Mrs. Lily lives.
And I'll take a look at yours as well.
Yes.
And the proximity from her property line to your property line, is there some sort of adjoining wall?
No,
There's a
it's
slight
a
bricks
fence.
and a fence.
It's
and
a
it just
fence.
doesn't crawl over. You have to pull it in.
No, you don't. No,
Wait a
you
minute.
don't.
This
That's
is
not true.
Are these your peppers on one side of this gate?
Yes.
Are you on your property line when you took this picture?
Yes.
All right. Well, this picture is showing that on one side the peppers are growing on the other side. And your position is if they grow on my side of this fence or gate, they're mine.
Coming up on America's Court.
This is something that she has created, and you are taking what she has created and taking them to market and then underbidding her.
Closed captioning provided by This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Sonia Dills, who is suing homemaker Lily Stein for $4,200.
You are now seeing the peppers that you patented and created
Yes.
growing on her property.
Yes.
And what are you doing with these peppers once they grow?
Well, I mean, they were on my property and they were growing, and I knew that she was going to the farmer's market and selling these peppers for a lot of money. And personally, I'd like to make a little money too. So I
Let's
went
all
to-
make some money off some peppers.
She's been
Well,
selling for
so-
$1. Of course, they're going
I
to go
didn't
over
know
and
what
buy
she
at
was
your
charging.
place.
Well,
She
wait a
was
minute.
probably
You were
charging too
taking
much.
these peppers to the farmer's market,
Yeah.
and you were selling them for how much?
$2.50 per pepper and 10 for 20. And she's selling it for $1. And all my hard work just goes down the drain because she sells it for $1.
But this is
Now you
free.
realize, Ms. Stein, that she's created these peppers, that she is trying to pursue this as a business venture. And it just so happens that because it's growing on your side, you are now taking from something that she has built and nurtured. You don't see any issue with that?
No, well, I mean, I didn't know there was such a thing as a patent on a pepper, on pepper seeds.
Well,
I mean,
once you
never
knew
heard of it.
that, that means that this is something that she has created, and you are taking what she has created and taking them to market and then underbidding her.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. You're watching America's Court with Judge Ross. This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
Based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel is going to come down in favor of the defendant.
What?
I'm going to have to dismiss your case. I'm going to dismiss it without prejudice. And the reason for that is because you're talking about a patent infringement. Things involving trademark, intellectual property, and copyright. Those matters must be handled in a federal court. Now, having said that, federal court is expensive, it's time consuming, and that's a challenge. Having said that, because again, I dismissed it without prejudice, there's a case called Bowman versus Monsanto, Ms. Stein. And the U.S. Supreme Court a couple of years ago decided in favor of the person who had the patent for seeds. But we're not talking $4,200. We're talking substantial amounts of money. You may want to consider working this out before she takes you to the next level.
I understand.
That is the order. Case closed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
My neighbor knows that she stole my pepper, and now I have to take it to a higher court.
I am very pleased with the judge's decision, obviously, but I've learned my lesson.
Follow America's Court on Facebook and Twitter. This has been a production of Entertainment Studio.